Hello, welcome to ModRaiders Podcast. My name is Asdruboi. I am a streamer myself, but I also do moderation as well for other streamers. This is a podcast that was created to give another space for content creators and streamers to really be able to just talk about what it is that they do every single day, or maybe they do it 2, 3 times a week, but they do it in front of an audience with a setup and everything ready to go so that you can entertain. And that's the overall point of this show, of the podcast itself. This is my very first guest that we're having here on the pod. I currently have Eraleas with me, a lovely human who I would love to present for sure. This is a half Greek, half French streamer. Is a full-time streamer. And on top of that, he is also a silver hair human who is a D&D lover. So, and this is one of my dearest friends here on Twitch, and is a pleasure to have here on the pod. So, hi, Eraleas. Welcome on in.
Hi, Drew. Thank you so much for having me. Wow, what an intro. I'm definitely not nervous.
I did a little bit of research. And when I say I did a little bit of
Well,
research, I went to your social media.
I mean, yeah, social media. Well, I hardly know her, but also hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to see you finally doing something you wanted. You've been talking about it for a little bit
Yes.
already, so it was like so nice to see you get started. And thank you so much for having me as your first guest.
No,
No,
thank you
no
for accepting.
pressure
No, not at
at all.
all. I mean, we're
Not at all.
listen, this podcast is mostly about just chatting away about our love for not only streaming, but to just talk and see. Maybe I know something that you don't, or you know something that I don't, and then we can share not only knowledge, but share who we are. At the end of the day, we're just humans who do this for some of us do it for a living, like yourself, who is a full-time streamer. Some of us do it part-time as well, but we have a passion in common, which is to stream and really do this in a way that not only is it beneficial for us, but it's also beneficial to everyone that's watching, because in the end of the day, we're there to have fun and entertain.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. It's been a journey. It's always content creation, streaming, all that. It's you never know where you end up. You start at one point and end up at a very different place sometimes, and when you least expect it. But it is part of the journey.
Yes, very much so. But I think before we get into the whole subject of like streaming, Twitch, or whatever you want to call it, I think it's important for us to get to know the person before that. So can you tell us a little bit about baby Aurelius? Where did you grow
Baby
up and everything?
Relius. Okay, well, as you said, I'm half French and half Greek. I was born in France, specifically Poitiers. I moved at a very young age, around 2 years old, in Greece. I lost my mom at a very young age, and we had to move for reasons like my dad needed to move on. So I grew up here in Greece with my grandparents on my dad's side, my aunt and my dad.
Okay.
And well, it was a very tiny apartment, I remember, and I remember I was also scared. This is where I developed my fear of heights and edges, because we were like on the sixth floor, and the balconies were tiny, and you felt like if you looked down, like it would pull you in. So yes, childhood, amazing stuff. But
Childhood.
overall, despite like not having one parent, had a lot of love surrounding me, like from my father, of course, and my grandparents, who I considered like parents as well. Like my grandmother, I called mom for the longest time, and of course my aunt, who is also my godmother. So Greek family, very very tight. I did visit France, and my family there. I have quite a few cousins and aunts, and also my grandparents in France.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was mostly growing up in Greece, going to a mostly French school with some Greek in there, growing up bilingual, which was a
Oh.
challenge. And at least at school, at least at that school, there were a lot of people who were half Greek and half French, along with French people who would work in Greece and bring their kids along. So it was a very different upbringing from the traditional Greek kid, if I do say so.
So when did you leave France to go to Greece?
Um, I think I must have been around 2 years old, so I
Oh, very
barely
young.
remember that. Yeah, very young, very young. I lost my mom around when I was 1 year old. My dad wanted to stay there, and then my grandparents kind of told him, like, you need to move on because losing a spouse is definitely not an easy thing. So he
Yeah.
needed to move on, and he decided to come back to Greece and resettle. And yeah, I mean, had this not happened, would my life be very different right now? I would probably have been grown up in France. I would be in a very different place right now. Maybe I wouldn't be streaming. Who knows what I would be doing?
You'll have brown
It's
hair. But I think one of the cool things about one of the things that you mentioned is that you got the chance to go back there and be surrounded by your family and friends. But I think one of the cool things that I do want to ask you a little bit more about is the difference about being in France versus being in Greece. Yes, you were there very young. Yes, you went to visit there, but you definitely had like a pretty much a point of comparison between them, correct? So can you tell us a little bit about that for those of us who have never been in either of the countries?
more or less. Like, I will say, like, I've experienced a lot of summers in France as a kid. I will say, like, the kids are like, they have a different upbringing. Like, the whole education system is very different.
Mm,
They feel a little more carefree. I feel the Greek education system is a little more strict overall, more reading to do, etc., more homework uh, compared to the French one. But like, I haven't like lived there, gone to school in France, so I can't really say for
of
certain.
course.
It's just from my experiences. Um, it's definitely different cultures. Greeks and French, like the French, as we joke that they're very fussy. Um, and they're very demanding, but then again, like they are very busy people too. Like it's a very powerful country after all. So like they have grown to be a little more snobbish, a little more fussy, but overall, like they're not bad. Like they still know how to have fun. They still have their things. Like for example, like things that I've experienced in Greece, I haven't seen in France, and vice versa. So
Mhm.
it was always an interesting like thing to compare between the two. As for Greece, like honestly, a lot of Greek families very common, but very very friendly, very chill compared to other cultures that I've seen. Like they will greet people on the street, they will be loud, they will laugh loudly, they will argue loudly. But and I think it's pretty similar to Latino families
Oh,
when it comes to
very
Greek.
much so.
Or for
There's
the French, they were a little more guarded, more cautious, not as open. But yeah, it's two very different countries, and having grown up with both influences can be a little weird. You can feel like sometimes you don't quite fit on either,
mhm.
which is, I mean, it is what it is. I'm not the only kid that is like part of two cultures or bilingual. I mean, there are definitely I've met a lot of people throughout my life who have.
Yeah, I understand you in that sense. Being someone who is from Latin America and then also having English as well as a second language, and I don't know if this happens to you because technically speak three languages. You speak Greek, you speak French, and you speak English. So I don't know if this happens to you when you start to talk in whichever language. Sometimes the wires get mixed up, and then you're like, wait, hold on, what is this word in this language? It's such a basic word, but
Mhm.
sometimes that happens when you have multiple languages in your brain. So I feel you on that. But I
I
want
mean, I would say I did grow up. Like as a kid, I could write both in French and Greek. So I knew both alphabets growing up very early on, and I would communicate both in French and Greek.
to.
Sometimes I would like mix Greek and French together in one sentence. That was like until I like got my bearings, like 7, 8 years old, when you have more perception of what you're saying to whom you address. So you're not just spouting out words. So it wasn't like that difficult to adapt and like switch languages. And funnily enough, like English has essentially now become my main language because I stream in English,
Yeah.
obviously, and I live with an American man, so My most commonly used language is English. Like 95% of the day, I will communicate in English, which is not something I ever expected to do, but here we are.
Hey, you know what? When life happens,
Life
happens life.
happens, yeah.
So let's bring it back a little bit back to your childhood. What would you say is like a funny story or a warm memory that you have when you were a child?
A funny story. Oh my God. Like embarrassing moments? Are
No,
we
no, no,
talking
like a
embarrassing
good
moments?
one, baby, good one.
A funny, good one. Oh gosh, funny. Funny in what sense? Because
Maybe,
I can definitely share an embarrassing one, but
I mean,
um,
if that's the one you have right now.
I remember I was like second grade of the elementary school, and I felt like my friends weren't giving me enough attention, so I ended up taking scissors and clipping my eyebrows. And for a month or so, my grandfather and grandmother, before I went to school, they had to draw my eyebrows. Kids, you know. Yeah,
Baby.
it was. Yeah, I mean, kids, you know,
But like, did
like
you do both or just the one?
I just took scissors and just I wasn't even in the mirror. I just did it in class, you
Yeah.
know.
Okay, even more riskier. like, but did you get like any injuries or would you just fine? Or
Oh
just the
no, no,
absence of
no.
hair?
I had no eyebrows for a time, so I had to have them drawn on by my grandparents, and that's an embarrassing story.
I mean, but you know what? It's 2024. Drawing eyebrows, maybe there's
Oh
an art
yes,
of
but
it.
back then, when you realize what you've done, you're like, oh boy, maybe that wasn't the brightest idea.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
But I feel everyone as a kid has done something that is like silly or embarrassing.
Oh, very much so. It's the growing pains for sure.
Of
Um,
course.
so talking about growing pains, I mean, obviously you have an entire life history before you started streaming. So let's talk about jobs. What would you
Jobs.
say
Okay.
is the best job that you had, and what was the worst job that you had?
Oh, okay. Like I would say two of my jobs were my favorite, even though they had very negative aspects as well. So favorite jobs. I really enjoyed my time when I was working customer service as a senior advisor for Apple for the
Oh,
iTunes store. Yes, I was working. So it was account and billing essentially. We were in the email department. We would support the junior advisors, although we don't call them that. They're just advisors. And we would take the difficult cases. We would talk with engineering. And I got to feel comfortable with it because in such cases there's a lot of responsibility, and when Apple tells you like whatever you write is a go, but be careful, apply the values of the company and make sure that you say things as they should be said and try to resolve the issue. That was a very fun journey. I worked with Apple for about 5 years. um, Again, I will say customer service very stressful, but I gained a lot of I learned a lot about organization and technology. I came to admire some of the people that work there because you see a totally different perspective. Like, yeah, you everybody sees like the Apple stores or iPhones or iPads, but I got to see like inside what's going on, um, everyday problems, trying to solve someone's issue, and seeing someone's gratitude. Like I remember my longest call when I used to be tech support, for example, was with an 80-year-old lady from France, and she had so many issues on her phone. I sat with her for 3 hours and resolved everything, and she was so sweet in her satisfaction survey. So that was that I learned a lot from Apple because it's like very organized, and I really appreciated that. I like it when things are said properly and you know what to expect. So that was a really good experience. Another experience, of course, more creative, was when I was a visual merchandiser for Mango. Essentially, I was responsible for setting everything on the shelf floor where it should be, how it should look. Of course, we had documents, etc., and most of them were in Spanish. Let me just say, because it is a Spanish company.
What
So
does it do?
Mango, like it's a clothing store. It's a clothing
Oh,
brand, like
okay.
Zara or Zara. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it.
It's Thara.
And um, so that was very creative, but
Mhm.
also it was many, many hours. And I also met some great people there working with, learning a lot of things, learning how to like best combine even clothes like for fashion, because I did like the fashion industry and I've worked in retail for many years, like in a tuck shop, and I was a sales advisor. But after a point, it started getting very stressful, many hours. I was very tired, so I had to move on. So that's why I looked at alternatives into customer service because like, knowing three languages is definitely more helpful
Yeah.
when it comes to such jobs. So, yes, I would say those two because I learned a lot of things. Again, with their negatives, with their stresses, but still was very good.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, each and every single job that you have always gives you something so that like, when you move on to the next one, you know what kind of mistakes you should not make. Number two, if you do in fact make them again, you already know how to fix them some way, somehow. And see, each and every single job will give you a new perspective of life, of your own personality, and will help you grow even more and more and more, you know? And I say this as someone who has done like maybe like 2 years. I think the most job, I think the longest I've had was like 2.5 years as the longest I've had a job. It was for a marketing assistant for a toy store, actually. You know, like every single opportunity you have to show off your talent and to show off what it is that you know to really benefit another company, that means that they are taking what it is that you do, and not only are they giving you credit for it, but at the same time you're getting the extra experience, and then you get the word of mouth. The word of mouth is also incredibly important when you go to do like some kind of job search or anything like that, you
Oh,
know?
yes, definitely. Even if you switch fields, I still
Yes.
feel you do keep some experience and you can apply it and adjust it to each job or each field.
Yeah, and contacts as well. Like, listen, whatever contact you can get, that's networking. Like, make sure to
It is
get it.
networking. It is networking. Sometimes, like, it doesn't apply. In my case, like going from retail to customer service, like completely detached, but still, you learn how to assess the situation, especially, when you work in a retail store and you're facing customers. Like, if you get a phone call, you know kind of how to go about it to read the room and try to assess the problem and help them out.
Yeah.
But then again, there are so many tools, especially from those big companies like Mango or Apple. Like there are so many tools that will guide you, even if you're a beginner.
Exactly. So we already talked about your early life. We already talked about your job aspect. Let's talk about your current job aspect, which is
My
streaming.
current job.
So technically, listen, for some people, it is currently a job. It's technically a job, especially if you're a full time streamer. Do you agree with that statement?
Say yes, you could say it's a job,
Hmm.
but it shouldn't feel like a job, in my
That
opinion.
part.
It's like if you start seeing it a lot like a job, it will become very stressful. And I'm
Hmm.
not gonna lie, I've been guilty of treating it like a job, and it's something I'm trying not to do as much. Yes, I am full-time streaming, at least for now,
Yeah.
and like I'm grateful for that. But yeah, it is somewhat of a job, you might say.
So let's talk about your your daily life currently. Let's talk about your morning routine. What do you do when you wake up?
Okay. You talked about morning routine.
Yes,
My mornings, I'm asleep. To be fair, I will
that
wake up a
is
little
true.
later. Until recently,
Your
no,
morning routine. Your.
when I wake up, well, usually I will just make some coffee and just try and wake up. It will take me like 30 minutes to an hour to properly wake up and then get moving. Like sipping coffee, like maybe eating some breakfast, like my vitamins, etc. And then I will usually go over like my notes on what I need to do for the day. Um, like if it's a streaming day, obviously. I will have like to double check on Mix It Up, double check on OBS, then go with title, things like that. Make sure that the game is captured, that the sound is working. But lately, I've just done something like I've taken notes and I try to work on something specific each week. For example, this week I'm working on upgrading my playlist that plays through Spotify because
Mm,
you do need some music playing in the background, at least
that's
for
true.
just chatting
Mm-hmm.
sessions. So each week I have a little something that I'm planning on doing. So I try to do a little bit every day and planning ahead of other things. Maybe I will brainstorm, etc. I will say I should focus on socials. I'm mostly gonna be like high on Discord, etc. Maybe something on Twitter, but I need to see where I can fit in the whole social thing, like Instagram and TikTok and all that.
Yeah.
They need to have a spot in there. I still haven't found where in my workflow I will fit it.
Yeah,
But
it's kind
that's
of like a
usually
balance. It's definitely a balance between like, yeah, you stream, but at the same time, you have to make sure that your content is still getting out there some way, somehow, but by just like streaming is obviously like the bigger picture. Yes, of course, but you have to think about also the little aspects of things like social media, even because that's pretty much our quote unquote our only way to really be out there, and then for people
yeah.
to for if you're the followers or your most like trusted viewers, they will pretty much retweet it, like it, comment on it as well.
I
So
don't really do it that much. Like honestly, I used to do it a lot. Like I used to be, oh, I'm going live in like 5 minutes, and then I switch it to I'm going live in about an hour. And I used to like post selfies a lot on Twitter. At least we're talking strictly Twitter/X. I don't
mm,
do that anymore. I don't know why. Like I'm just trying to gauge how I want to approach social media. I feel, and when I'm ready, I'll start doing more things on them. But for now, it's mostly like Twitch and a little bit of Twitter, and the rest I have like neglected, like put on hold for now until I figure out how I want to do it.
valid.
But yes, it is important to put some content out there. Like I'm also like very critical. So like, will I post every clip that I have? Like on TikTok, I will probably not, or on Twitter.
Mm.
If it's a special occasion, yes, I will. I will do a bigger tweet or like I'm streaming. But like I I do know all the advice and tips that people say, tweet about going live, etc., which I know you do, for example, when you post a selfie. Like I wanted to do, for example, things differently, like
Yeah.
have a redeem where I post a selfie. And that was mostly because I didn't take photos a lot. And a lot of people were like, why don't you take more selfies?
Ah,
But
the
still,
old days, the old days of the old phone,
the old
the
phone
old
with the
phone.
terrible definition. No, it's mostly I disabled it because like Twitter got renamed, and we're like, well, now it's like tweet a pic didn't make sense,
Like
and
it's a pig.
uh,
Like what?
yes, but
That
still people
terminology is
call it
so
Twitter.
yeah.
To be fair,
I still call it
so
Twitter. So yeah.
everybody calls it Twitter. To be fair, but yeah, I haven't. I've been neglecting social media. It's not
Mm-hmm.
something I would advise a lot of people to do, and honestly, I would say I haven't spoken to that many streamers to know how much their social media have helped them in the long run in their streaming career, quote unquote, depending on whether they see it as a career or not. I know people
True.
have done amazing without really leaning into the social media. Others have gotten their following through social media and taken it to Twitch. So it's a bit of a different journey, and I think it really depends on your community and how active they're on those social media. Because I have a lot of people like, oh, I'm not on Twitter, or I'm not on Instagram. So,
Valid.
but yeah, it's a good idea to still do that. But yeah, that routine might need to change in the future. But for now, I'm in the process of redoing some things, going over things, like polishing things up.
Wonderful. All right. We're gonna take a small break. This is Eraleas, who I'm talking to. We'll be right back with more moderators here in the podcast. BRP. And we're back with more Moderators Podcast. I'm currently with Aurelius, who we are just chatting about life, chatting about everything, and now we're just gonna dive into streaming itself. So I'm gonna ask you a question, which I think is gonna be like the question that I want to do in each and every single podcast.
Oh, it's the question.
It's the
Okay, let's
question.
hear it. The question of the mod pod. Okay.
Of the mod pod, exactly. When did you knew stream was for you?
Oh, okay. That's a question, all right. Streaming was for me. I would say like very early on when I started streaming, and I'll be honest. I started on late May 2021, so it's been over 2.5 years now, which
Mm.
sounds like a long time, but I mean I've had my breaks in between, etc. Um, a year before that, I remember in August, I was trying to like create a website or sorts for The Sims and modding The Sims, etc., which I never really released, but it was more of like testing things out for me and for my own sanity to keep up with the mods. Regardless, I remember
I
doing
wouldn't
it
know.
about
I don't know what you're
me,
talking
where I
about.
said, um, like I'm not a YouTuber, I'm not a streamer with no plans on being one. And a
Mm.
year later, I was actually streaming. I will say, streaming was for me very early on. I would say like the first couple of weeks when I started streaming, I was really enjoying it. It's so many aspects though. Like I can't tell you why I thought streaming was for me, but I personally like really enjoyed sitting in front like of a camera addressing a crowd of however many people and working on things, connecting, and playing games together because I do enjoy playing games with the community. So I
Yeah.
really enjoyed that.
And you actually
Um,
started as a Dead by Daylight streamer, correct?
I did not know. In
Oh.
fact, the first game I started streaming was Genshin Impact,
Oh,
and
really?
yes,
You're a
so
Genshin person.
I was. Well, Genshin is a weird game. Like I love it and hate it at the same time. Well, I don't really hate it, but essentially, I had seen a friend play it. It was like, oh, what's this game? It's called Genshin Impact. I'm like, maybe I should keep Genshin for stream, like experience it first time. So I was streaming a lot of Genshin and some DBD. So it was mostly those two games at the very start. It was
Mm-hmm.
one day, I think, of DBD. On Sundays, we were playing Survivors with friends and some Genshin Impact. And at least, my first steps, my first few months, like 4 or 5 months in, it was a lot of Genshin and some other games, including Dead by Daylight. I did throw in some The Sims 4 in there. I remember like 2 months in. Um, I did do some Resident Evil 7 as well in July of 2021. Like not my proudest of streams, but I was trying things out. So I did not start as a DBD streamer. In fact, for the whole of 2021, starting like late May till December, I was pretty much variety. I will say this
Wow.
much. So Hades and Genshin and anything like it was. But then it started becoming a lot about DBD, especially after September, October 2021. It was mostly DBD rather than anything else. Then I gravitated towards becoming a more DBD focused streamer
Mm.
for several months after that in 2022,
Yeah, that's how I
at
knew
least for
you.
6 or 7 months or even more. I would say it was DBD, 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 DBD with a few other things thrown in there on occasion.
I remember I went into your channel. It was because we have a streamer friend in common, Fleming Gamer, and Flaming has on his server when some of people go live, so there was a
Hmm.
notification, and I keep seeing your name constantly, constantly, constantly your name, and then it wasn't until one day that I was just on Twitch, just browsing around, and then I was like, in recommended, I saw you, and I was like, oh, this is the person that I have seen constantly all the time. And then when I got in, I was like, what is this voice? That was my first thought.
Oh my God, dude. Okay, I will say I I don't know about the self promo channel. For the longest time, my Discord was malfunctioning. So any bots that would take, like you have the streamer role, so it will shout you out automatically. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't aware because like I don't usually like post I'm going live
No, you
anywhere.
don't. You don't do that.
And like I wasn't aware of that. Yeah, I remember I was playing DBD and I think we were in the treatment theater and you just jumped in and you knew quite a few people,
I knew pretty much everyone in your chat.
like pretty much everyone. I'm like, oh, like how come I don't know you? This is something like I remember very very fondly. And there you came in with so much energy. We're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I was doing DBD when we met.
Yeah.
That is very true.
And that was in December, so it's been like almost a year now, over a year
Was
now.
it
So we've met.
December? Was it
Damn, because it
December?
was during my off time for my sickness era.
Okay.
The one
So
that
December
allows you to stay at home for several
2022.
days. That one, you know what I mean?
So that was December 2022,
Yes.
probably. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was an interesting month, like definitely. But yeah, it was a lot of DBD, especially 2022 was mostly Dead by Daylight.
Mm.
Yeah. But again, we changed. Again.
That's
It
what it is.
happens.
It's like sometimes you do something that is so like common, like this is what is gonna happen, this is it's gonna happen, and then it reaches a point where either you get bored of the same thing you do over and over again, or you go like, you know what? Let me spice this up. I know that maybe not everyone's gonna accept it, everyone's not gonna take it, but I need a change, and I think that's what end up, and I think that's what happened with you, correct?
More or less. So I was advised to focus on one game, to grow on Twitch,
Mm.
and I do know it works in some cases. Um, I've seen many streamers grow either by like being DBD streamers or Fortnite streamers, and you kind of get like trapped there.
Mm.
If they still enjoy it and they enjoy it, of course, by all means. I did not see that big an impact for me. Like for the longest time, at least in 22, like looking at everything, I don't feel like I grew as much, even if I focus on one game. And we're talking about like full-time streamer. I was still streaming like 5 days a week, 5 hours per stream. So that was 25 hours of streams per week, which was quite a lot. Like, sure, there are people that stream more, but again, considering it was a lot of DBD, I did not see that big change that people would claim, and eventually I started getting a little bit tired. And there were some changes in the game early 2023
Oh yeah.
that made me not really enjoy the game, and I was kind of getting over it because also the attitude of players in the game itself had
Mm-hmm.
changed, and I was kind of getting over it. Not that I don't play it. I still play it on the regular, maybe every week, maybe every other week. But I needed like a palate cleanser. I needed a break. And I'm kind of glad that I didn't like brand my whole channel around Dead by Daylight because, like, what if?
Yeah.
Like, not just by any game, this game that is my main game, something happens, whether with the company or the game itself, or it's discontinued, like what happens then? And I've seen that happen with streamers, especially like in case like VHS, where, it didn't
Oh,
go
poor
down well.
VHS.
And people focused their content on there and they were doing great. But then when that stopped,
Yeah.
what happens? So there was always the fear of what happens if. And then, it's all about the audience. And yes, making the switch back to variety after such a long time is not very easy.
No, and
But yeah,
and you know, I agree with you on that specific point. I think that when you have a certain niche or you have a certain taste, especially when it comes to like emotes, when it comes to layouts, when it comes to design aspect, it's so important for you to have a focal point, but don't make it about just one game, or else if the game breaks down, your entire process is broken down as well. So
yeah. I
it's very
mean,
important
like
to have a vision, a future.
if your entire brand is focused around, let's say, Dead by Daylight or Fortnite, all your alerts, your emotes are inspired by that. What if you can you even move on from that game
Mm.
ever? You'd need like to completely rebrand everything.
Yes.
So, I'm kind of glad like I kept my thing going without like hyper focusing my brand at least with a game and making it like one and the same.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So obviously you've been on for over 2.5 years. So I think it's a very hard question for me to ask you. But what would you say is your biggest streaming highlight?
My biggest streaming highlight.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh, like honestly, oh, the thing I'm most proud of, like during my stream, is like, um, it's a very difficult question to answer. Okay, let me think.
Okay.
If
One aspect, not the biggest. Let's say one aspect, so they can make it easier for you.
okay, like I'm very happy that I was able to make an almost seamless transition because I kind of switched community early 2023,
Mm.
and it felt kind of seamless, although there was like a little bit of a lull for a couple of months. It I did get to meet some pretty amazing people at the end of 2022 and into 2023, and I managed to like yourself included, of course. But honestly, I did meet a
Oh.
lot of people that have decided to want to be over at my channel, of
Mm.
course. And I feel that transition, like moving away from one community and one style and working towards another one. I'm very happy that I managed to do that because it's always scary because it's like, okay, this is not working with these people for
Yeah.
XY reasons and I need to move on. It felt pretty seamless, like as if nothing essentially changed. Although the community did change, it didn't impact that many aspects,
Yes.
if you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
the transition from just DBD to variety also was more um, appreciated and like people embraced it immediately. Like I did not expect it, and sure, I'm sure some people watch me because I played DBD and they were used to playing with me, but they didn't mind me, starting doing variety, and they've completely embraced that concept. So I'm very glad that I took some risks and they kind of paid off. Um, at least for that. Unless this is not what you were asking,
No,
so
no,
I'm
that's
sorry.
completely no. It's a completely valid answer, and I will share that. I will share that because I know. Full disclosure, I'm mod for Eraleas. I'm a mod for Eraleas, and I know that you were very. I think we had like a long talk about this. That obviously you were jumping from DVD to variety because and then you kind of had a phase where you were just and it's completely understandable you were scared of what will happen if I do this move, which again, when you're a streamer that does one thing all the time and you decide you don't want to do that anymore, the change is scary because you just don't know what you're gonna get. You don't know what you're gonna expect. Are you gonna lose your audience? You're gonna have to start from scratch. Like there are things that does in fact go through your mind as a content creator that you have to go through essentially. And I'm glad to see that after that process, I think right now you are in an era where where you are like,
That's
I
a
feel you're
terrible
more
pun.
yeah, you're more relaxed and it
I mean,
shows.
I will say this, like definitely knowing that I could switch times 3 times in 2023 because I went from 3 p.m. Eastern, from 1 p.m. Eastern, I went to 3 p.m. Eastern or something like that. I
Mm-hmm.
remember my own time. Then I did the late night stream era, which lasted throughout the summer, although I didn't stream that much throughout the summer. And then I switch again now, end of November.
Mm-hmm.
So on top of that, switching to variety, switching communities, and switching my own attitude and what kind of image I present.
That's
Like
true.
not that I'm like that was a lot of change last year, honestly. And the fact that I feel I grew more than what I initially thought is just it's a pretty big achievement in my book at least because like if you make so many changes you don't expect people to stick around. If you change your attitude and how you address your viewers and chat and what games you play and what times you stream, you expect like to lose a lot. I would
Mm-hmm.
say I feel I've gained more than I've lost. So big risks, I guess. Scary, very scary, very stressful, but I'm very grateful that it managed to pan out. As for me being more myself, yes, maybe it's because I'm playing variety, but it's also a lot of peer pressure and from people that are close to me and love me and more like pushed me, nudged me to be more like myself and not be the person that I think people want to see.
So, obviously, you've been doing this for over 2.5 years. You have done a lot of changes. You've gone through different schedules. You've gone through different gaming genres and everything. But I want to know who was the person that drew you into Twitch in the first place?
Oh boy. Into Twitch itself,
Mm-hmm.
not into streaming,
No,
right?
into Twitch.
So, okay. Not going to share names, obviously. It's a person I no longer am on speaking terms with
Okay.
because they deemed so. It's a very, very talented Sims YouTuber um, that I met in 2020, actually, late 2020, October, because I was looking for something specific and I discovered her channel and I really enjoyed her content. So I kind of like pushed her to do more. And like I was kind of like a mod without being a mod because she
Mm.
wasn't streaming yet. So I kind of pushed her towards a Patreon because she was doing a really good job at building, etc. And then she said, "Hey AJ, Eraleas, I'll be on Twitch. I think I'm gonna stream some of them. Do you want to be a mod for me?" Anyway, that's what brought me to Twitch. I already had an account because World of Warcraft, but and mods like you needed to have a Twitch account for that. So that's why my account age is quite old. But I was actually on Twitch first for The Sims 4, and that person, we parted ways. I wish her the best, obviously. I still,
Of course.
keep an eye out to see what she's doing, and still, like, amazing talent. Um, but yeah, that's The Sims 4. That what brought me here. And initially, I thought I would be a Sims streamer. But that never happened because I don't think that would be my vibe. But I did try my hand at that. But that's what
Oh,
brought me on Twitch.
okay. Well, speaking of mods, I do have
Yes,
a segment, a very special segment called Mod Check. All right. In this
mod
section,
check.
in Mod Check, I actually messaged one of your mods to give me a question, which I
Okay.
will ask. And this question comes from the lovely Hellion_Wolf.
Mr. Wolf.
Mr. Wolf, who we love and adore as well, who's also a streamer as well. So go
Yes.
check out Hellion, please. The question is, what would you say has been the most? Uh, hold on, because I don't have my glasses. Got it. What would you say has been the most significant change you've made during your career, and how proud are you of it? That is the question that Hellions_Wolf sent out, and thank you, Hellion, for the question.
Thank you, Hellion. The most significant change I've made in my streaming career was to try to like be more myself, honestly, and try to um, because like I know you knew me at a different time, but like people could say and that I used to be somewhat of a thirst streamer, etc. There was a lot of innuendo, there were sounds at times, and I thought that's what people wanted to see from me.
Mm.
And it's what some people had suggested in the past, and all those things. So me being able to say no, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, and completely uh, turn over a new leaf and readjust how I want to be on stream, like be more like myself, be more relaxed. Because like if you're trying to lean into one aspect of yourself, because I will say like we're not just one facet, like we're multifaceted. So
Yes.
yes, there will be those silly, more spicy moments, sure, because it's a more mature stream, but like I didn't feel like wanting to super lean into that, and I'm glad that I managed to move on and embrace more facets of myself and be a little more nerdy, a little more silly, etc. It's always scary to expose yourself. So, and you don't know if you'll be accepted. So, for the longest time, I thought, like, what do people on Twitch want to see? They want to see this from Eraleas. So, I was trying to be a very certain way, and it wasn't always the most comfortable.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that when you because I did saw the before and the after, of course. Uh, been knowing you for a year, and obviously being present when you were doing these change ups. I think now is this new version of you is one that is. I think that now you're more focused on what it is that you want to do, how you want to do it, and then on top of that, you're doing it in a way that feels free. And I
Yeah,
think right there is the overall change in thought, change as well in your emotes as well, because you change your emotes as well. You redid your entire setup as well. Like this background that you have here was not the same background as you had before. Yeah, you were in your previous house, but but it's not the same one. Like you like redid everything again. So and that is a bold move to make, and I do want to give you your props because being bold in this type of industry sometimes can cost you, and I don't think this in this occasion it cost you. In fact, I think it benefited you even more.
I believe so myself. Like some, obviously, like saying, like I've been doing it for 2.5 years. Like, am I where I would ideally be if I did it very consistently and I had everything figured out from the beginning? No, like if I were to look back, I
Mhm.
would have done things differently. It's not like I'm having
Of course.
regrets, but it's like part of the journey. You learn, you make mistakes, you readjust. Like, and there were many changes. Like you talked about the emotes, that was a different thing because I'm like, okay, my emotes are really well drawn because like the artist Drusy is
Icon.
pretty good, and this is me saying pretty good by saying like he's pretty amazing because he does
Kids.
amazing artwork. But like I felt like there's a disconnect, and so I was trying to figure out what is wrong with them, which was nothing really wrong, but people do prefer to use another different style. So
Yes.
eventually that change came to be with different modes. So you always need to reevaluate sometimes some things that you do, from what games you play, to what times you stream, to what communities you're in, to your emotes, to like I pay a lot of attention to detail as much as I can personally. So I go over things very, very often and revisit them and see, okay, this could be better, or this needs to go.
Uh,
So yeah, it's taking so many risks and chances because like if it works, why change it? People say, but like what works for each of us, it's very different. What is
Yes.
everyone's goal from streaming? For some people it's just a social, some people it's their job, as you say. For me, like I want to do something I'm really proud of, that looks and sounds good, and that feels like a happy uh, place where people can have fun and feel safe, above all.
Exactly. All right. Listen, we have a lot more to discuss, so we're gonna take a small BRB, and we'll be right back with more. Uh, Moderators. The way I messed up the name of my podcast. I'll be right back. And we're back with more Moderators Podcast. My guest today is Eraleas, who is a lovely half Greek, half French streamer. We've been chatting for sure about life, about streaming, about everything. But I want to take it to get your feedback on certain aspects of the streaming world itself and content creation. So we're going to go to a little segment called Allow or Block. So I'm going to give you a sentence, all right? This is something that happens on the streaming world and content creation world, and I want to hear your feedback. Will you allow it or will you block it? All right.
Okay. Do I also need to explain or just allow and block?
Okay. So the first thing that sure, why not? The first thing that we're
Okay,
going to talk
block.
about is swearing on stream. Do you allow or do you block?
I would say block, but it's really complicated to narrow it down. Like obviously, like if there's a lot of swearing and cussing,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, definitely block. Like sometimes if like a word slips out, like one of the most common, the F word, for example,
Yeah,
like on occasion, sure, okay. But like not if somebody goes on a tangent and just spits out an ancient curse, if you know what I mean. So I would say, yeah, mostly block it.
an
Yeah,
ancient
it's
curse.
like I have seen like some streamers that can pull it off and make it like very funny, but again, they don't. It's more about their reaction and their energy rather than the swear words. So I would
Of
say,
course.
like keep it to a minimum.
I agree. Because there's also the thing that if you use every like a swear word every 13 words in your sentence, that means that you're using that to. I mean, this is from a radio aspect because I used to do radio as well. When you use something a lot, it means that it's a crutch. That means that you
Hmm.
don't have the proper vocabulary to really be able to continue a nice thread or a good conversation because you keep using something that is like or you use like you use like 14 likes in the span of 30 words, so that's where
However, this is also in the vernacular of like some cultures, some areas use some words a little more than others, which is expected, of
no, of
course.
course. Just chatting streams allow or block?
Allow, although I will say, like I'm fairly recent, like I fairly recently found that I enjoy doing just chatting, but it's essentially just me keeping up with the community, sharing news, and discussing anything, like from food to D&D to a lot of stuff. Um, and I've seen some just chatting where I honestly have no idea what's going on. Like, honestly, it's like a fever dream. So, yes, I enjoy just chatting. It's probably, if not the most popular category, of which one of the most popular. But
Mm,
then again, you don't know what to expect. Just
exactly.
chatting is a lot of fun, especially if your community is like well natured and you vibe together and you have a lot of topics to discuss. And there will always be something that will change the topic, and you'll jump from topic to topic. And sometimes like you're 2 hours into your stream and you're still just chatting, and it's completely fine. And it's very scary to do just chatting. Like for the longest time, I'm like, I cannot possibly do just chatting for a long time and entertain people. Like I will run out of things to do.
Yeah.
But it's also mutual. Like you'll start like rolling the ball, and people will gather to play. So it's a nice feeling. Just chatting, I do feel like you connect better with the community overall.
When I first started streaming, I only did just chatting, but it was mostly because of the fact that I didn't have the proper equipment. Like I had like an old laptop. I used my phone as a camera. I had my phone headset is one that I used to stream as well, and I was in the old place. So like I was in an apartment that I no longer live at. I'm currently in a new place. So I look at those streams as not only my first testing of what streaming was like, but two, because it was the only thing I was able to do, I was truly able to just get rid of like any blockage, any sort of fear of talking on stream because I'm doing things in English. Like I'm from Venezuela. Like I'm a Spanish speaker. So therefore, I had to. I was using another language in a thing that I didn't know if I could do it or not because of my technological limitations. So me looking at those streams and think about how it was before, I love them. I engage in just chatting streams as well, and I agree with you. It's the ball. It's even though it's mostly improvised because we don't have a script, or like I don't use a script. I don't think you use a script either.
I do not use a script. No,
Uh,
I could never
yeah,
sit down and write, oh, we're going to talk about this today. I might have an idea, but something I want to talk about.
yeah.
But it will always change, like depending on how many people are talking,
Mm-hmm.
how the banter is evolving. Like it will definitely change. It will become something else. And we'll find like 10 minutes in talking about like food. And then at 25 minutes in about Marvel and the MCU. And, how did we get there? I don't know, but it's a lot of
Literally,
fun.
literally. All right. Allow or block backseating.
Oh, that's a difficult thing.
Mm,
Backseating, if we take the proper sense of the word, I would say block. But if
okay.
the stream asks for help, please by all means, like provide it him if you know. But like people that will jump in and immediately start saying do this, do that, like it's not always appreciated because sometimes it's their first playthrough.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's not then with malice, but sometimes you need to struggle a little bit. But yeah, if there are people that are willing to help, which is not, I think, backseating, yes, but like backseating strictly, like people are like, oh, okay, do this, do that, do this. And the streamer obviously does not want that.
Yeah.
No, I would no backseating.
I agree, and even there are streamers that have that rule when they're playing like story games. They have that like, well, now with the tool. Speaking of Twitch, when you can pin certain comments now, the first comment that whenever there's a story related game is no backseating in full caps, no backseating, and even then there are also streamers that have that in the rules, no backseating. Uh, or that when they ask for help, that's when you have the opportunity to do so. But don't go into just a random stream of a story game and just be like, hey, you need to do this, this, and this. Like, maybe
I
that's
never
not how we
see
do it.
that. Like
No.
honestly, on the streams I've been, I've never actually seen anyone literally jumping in and trying to backseat without the streamer
Oh, baby,
actually
I've seen
asking
it.
for have you. Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not the best look, but we need to remember that Twitch is also like the real world. There are some
Yeah.
people that will like do that and they don't realize that they they're doing something that the streamer at least is not comfortable with. Just like spoilers, it's like some people don't want spoilers, and there are some people like
Mm-hmm.
will just spit out a spoiler immediately and be like, "Oh boy, okay, I did not just hear that." Um, it happens. It's not that out of malice, but some people really want to help, but like they don't assume that the streamer doesn't want help.
Yeah, I agree. And the last one, allow or block suggested nudity.
TOS again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what do you mean by suggested nudity? I need an explanation.
So there was this trend, and I think you know about this. There was this trend in streaming world where it was just chatting, and there
Hmm.
were people there who were apparently topless, but they couldn't do anything because they were showing from like the edge of the nipple all
Okay,
the way
okay,
up. And then
okay.
when that ended up being something that was too popular, what people ended up doing was that they were in fact nude, but they glued
They
like a
put like the
giant,
bands and the squares.
yes, and I'm
Yeah.
like, that's baby. And now Twitch came out with a new rule where it's like you can't even do that either. So good job,
Okay.
everyone. That would be suggested
It,
nudity. Allow or block.
oof. Like obviously I'm not the one to dictate what everyone should do and can do on Twitch. Obviously it's the platform. Um yes, I do watch shirtless streamers, sure, but I don't watch them for the purpose of being shirtless. I watch them because I find them funny, and I'm not gonna give name, but like there's a, there's a big partner out there that I watch, and I actually find him very silly and goofy and funny, and I watch him regardless if he's shirtless or not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say no to suggested nudity. It's not because I'm a prude, but like I felt people were testing Twitch's limits by doing
Yeah.
that, and I've seen some videos. I'm like, because you see some aspects of Twitch and some other aspects like, okay, what is going on? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what is this platform about? And again, it's still good, and everybody's allowed to watch whatever content they want.
Amen to that.
But like, because like initially I thought Twitch was about streaming video games. Obviously, it's not just
Mm-hmm.
that. Um, I will say it's a very difficult topic to address. But for me personally, I'm not interested by suggested unit nudity,
Mm-hmm.
like where they're actually naked and blocking some parts and just sitting there because it's okay. I do not consider it interesting content for me to consume.
Exactly.
I'd rather do something else personally with my free time. But to each their own. Um, there
Exactly.
are also other sites where you can get that content.
Exactly. And for me, it's both. I would say is either allow or block, but it's because it depends on which platform are you using to stream. Because if it's a platform, for instance, like one that you make yourself, go ahead. Like it's yours, 1000%. It's your website. You can do whatever you want with it. If it's a streaming platform that is directed more towards underage people, I would be like, absolutely not. It's like you can't do that, of course.
I will say
Um,
Twitch is not really though addressed to underage people.
oh
Like, of
no,
course,
thank
the
God,
minimum
no.
age is
13.
13, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think 13 years old like watch Twitch that much. I would say like
I don't think so
the
either.
demographic is starting from like 16 to go like the average to 20 something.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume it's something I read about.
Yeah.
It's not Twitch is not for kids per
No.
se. Um, but then again, like there's so much content out there, so many video games, so many artists, so many musicians, so many other talented people that craft things, and it's like a big variety of content you can consume. There are some things I think people kind of wanting to push the limits of Twitch to see what would happen.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, it's me assuming, and it's not like the content I'm here for
Yeah.
to consume or create.
Yes, I agree. Well, that was allow or block. Thank you, Aurelius, for participating in
Thank
that
you,
lovely
Drew.
segment. So before we wrap up, I do want to ask you one thing specifically. What's your setup like? What kind of equipment do you use? And the emotes that you have, what are the concepts behind those emotes? And who made them, of course?
Okay, so I'll start with the emotes. So I have a variety of emotes now. It's some of the older ones and some of the newest ones. So of course, there's my dear friend Drusy, who designed all my emotes, like previous ones and current ones, and also my logo. Um, my current mascot is Kai, the Cloud Puff, a baby
Such
chimera,
adorable.
and the initial concept came because like we wanted something chibi, and Bromo was like, "How about something from Greek mythology?" And we were throwing ideas around, and we're like, "Oh, a baby chimera, but not like the classic chimera with the three heads. Let's do it a little cuter." So like drawing inspiration
Isn't
from
that
Greek
Cerberus?
mythology. No, like a chimera was supposed to have a goat head, a snake tail, I think a dragon head, and a
No,
lion
no, no, no. The
head.
three heads. Isn't that Cerberus?
Cerberus was a three-headed dog
Okay,
that
okay.
was guarding the gates of Hades. Um, so we went
I know
something
my mythology, bitch.
chibi. We went for something chibi, and we said, "Hey, baby chimera," and it helps because it's not a real creature, so we can play
Mm,
around with whatever colors we want.
true.
So, and drawing, like as I said, inspiration from Greek mythology, Disney, of course, because Trisk has a very Disney style to his art as well. Pokemon, because it is very reminiscent of a Pokemon, if I
It
do say
very
so myself.
is.
And D&D, of course, because like all these magical aspects, like it kind of blend into creating Kai. And I remember when Drusy started first designing, he had provided me with four different color patterns for Kai, some more yellowish, some more golden, some more silvery. And we ended up with that cream because it felt like a nice in between, because you really need to also think, okay, like if people are using dark mode, will that be obvious enough? If it's too yellow, it will be
Mm.
very contrasty. If it's light mode, will it even be obvious? So we were trying to find like a color that is not so much used by other streamers, at least for the base, like the fur. And then we, of course, added the purple and the little Disney curl, as I said, like the little cloud puff on top. And
The
that's how
snake
Kai
girl.
came to be. My older emotes are like more to my likeness, and I'm slowly changing them. But I do keep the old ones, and they are still usable. But I'm very grateful for Drusy because he puts so much detail
Mm-hmm.
into Kai, and he loved, from what he told me, the design because it's really that style is his favorite, and it's far easier to create a character, an animal, albeit fantasy animal, rather than try to draw the likeness of a real person.
True. Very
And
true.
people seem to really enjoy Kai. I'm surprised because some really big streamers, like I can say the names, but like
Oh,
even like commented on it and like I really like your new emotes, and I'm like that's very very sweet, thank you. And it's people whose emotes are you see all the time. Like
mm.
one of them was Fenris, and you know like Fenris's emotes are everywhere, like
Oh, you mean the one
people's
that you currently
favorites.
use that is either like the torch or you yelling at me?
Um, the fox, yeah. When I stare or when I
Yeah,
do the riot. Yeah. And you know, like when you have someone whose emotes are very popular on Twitch tell you, oh, I really like your emotes. It's like, you know, like we're doing something right. So I'm
exactly.
very proud of the changes. There will be more coming, of course. It's always like a little bit difficult to decide what you want as emotes and how we'll
Yes.
end up looking, and
Yes.
you kind of need to gauge opinions and look around and take inspiration. And Drusy is one for saying like, okay, sure, give me references, even though I haven't asked for them, but never expect that I will replicate anything like that. Like I'll do my own thing based on what you told me, but it will be unique. And I'm so happy with how things are turning out, and there will be more coming.
Awesome. Awesome. And what kind of equipment do you use?
The
Or you don't
setup.
have to say like the actual names. So just be like, hey, this is what I use. That's it.
Okay, well, honestly, I will say this: like my face cam is an Elgato face cam. Um, it's one of the cameras that were suggested to me. Again, I feel like with webcams you can go hit or miss.
Yes.
Because some webcams some people might look great on them, some other people might not. Sure, it has some aspects that I'm not the biggest fan of. Like, for example, it has a setting where if you want the anti-flicker, you need auto exposure. So you need to compensate that in other ways. So it can be a little bit of a headache. But yes, I did a little bit of an upgrade. My microphone is a SM7B. Sure, it's a very good microphone, especially if you have like a deeper voice. It really accentuates the bass. And of course, over the summer until the end of 2023, like upgraded my whole sound thing with a Elgato Wavelink, which kind of like is a mixer for all your sound on stream, so that you can adjust because sound is very important for streaming. A
Yes.
lot of people would lurk, so you don't want everything to be out of whack. And if you have just a one source desktop audio, it can be a little difficult to adjust everything to where you want it. So that has really improved, I feel, the experience of anyone watching. Also, a better camera also helps by all means. For my computer, like I have three screens. I have a really big monitor over here where I can read chat. For the longest time I could only read 9 lines in a like tiny box on my oldest monitor here. Of course, I have lights. I have like three lights in front of me and a ring light, a read light on the side. But
Mm.
also that always changes. If we change something in the background, the light will change, so we need to readjust. like
And you have a
all the
lovely background too, because you have I don't know if this continues, and I'm so sorry if it doesn't. But you have like, for instance, you have tabletop games, you have certain books, you have things related to D&D as well. So it kind of is like a little bit of like an introduction. Not only obviously we get to see your gorgeous and beautiful face, and you hear your beautiful gorgeous voice, but we also get to see the background because it's kind of like an indication of also like this is who I am too.
Oh yeah, definitely. These are not things that I bought necessarily for stream. These were things that I had for the longest time. Like I have a Pokemon shelf, and I have like the um, Mystery Islands, I think, binder over there with Pokemon. It came with like with Pokemon cards. My
Oh.
Vaporeon plushie. I had like the boxes from the Pokemon cartridges, starting from yellow going to I believe Emerald or Fire Red, Leaf Green.
Emerald's my
Like so
favorite game, by
many.
the way.
Really?
Emerald is my favorite game.
And I have my Nintendo like corner over there with my GameCube because I didn't get the Wii, so I had my GameCube, so like why not put it there? And of course my Game Boys and my DS and like the PlayStation 2. Of course, a lot of
Wow.
D&D stuff, tabletop stuff, but it's a little bit of everything. It's not like I have too many things. Eventually, if I end up having so many things, I will be switching things around. But yeah, like the idea was like, here's my nerdy stuff that you can look at them in the background. Of course, lighting very important. Uh, Recently, like we added like this little thing that creates it's over here that creates like all these lights on the wall, and like there's a pink light on top of the bookshelf to like create this uh, pink like aurora kind of
Yeah, it's
effect.
like an aura. Yeah.
It's kind of like like the night sky. So yeah, lighting very important. So it was a lot of work, but we made it happen, and I think I'm very happy with how it looks. And of course, there will always be improvements, but I wouldn't say like it's a setup that $1 million setup, like
Yeah.
some really big streamers have, because of course space can be limited, and not every
Mhm.
streamer has a very big room where they can set everything up. And yeah, it's what I had from the beginning or shortly after I started, the bookcase and the stuff on it. And as we go, we add more to it. Of course, I still have my festive lights on until I get my fairy lights for the tree. And we're adding and switching, etc. And if you change rooms or location, it will change as well
Oh
because
yeah.
say if I moved across countries, I could not like bring the bookcase with me, so it would have to be different things. And you see and adjust and see what works, what looks good, and you think of ideas.
Exactly. Well, we're about to end, but
Yeah,
I do want to ask you two more questions. The first
of
one
course.
is that can you give someone or give people a tip on streaming if people are just starting to do it? What will be like a thing that they should know before they start?
Yeah, I can say a couple things. So consistency is very important,
Hmm.
meaning like that. Um, it's a good idea to have a schedule and to have not necessarily like create a schedule as a graphic and post it on socials, but to actually have a schedule for people to know that on those days this streamer will be live, and try your best to show up. Of course, there will be days where you won't be able to do so because of real life. Like
Hmm.
in my case today, I wasn't able to stream. Um, but consistency is very important. Um, a lot of people, I feel, are not seeing so much progress, and it's easy to say, it's not for me, I will give up. So, consistency, try to stick to a schedule, do your thing. On top of that, I will say, set your boundaries.
Mm.
Something that I feel like a lot of newer streamers, including myself, didn't do on time. Sometimes you're like, okay, I'm a new streamer, I have an X amount of people watching me, and I need to cater to each one of them. And some people cross lines, and sometimes it's because, like, well, they're a viewer, they're one of however many viewers. I will give an example. They're one of 10 viewers. So, like,
Yeah.
losing one viewer might be detrimental to you, but in the long run, I feel like if you set your boundaries correct and you say, "You listen, this is not okay with me. I'm not comfortable with that." It's best to remove, say, someone that doesn't make you feel well during your streams, rather than keeping someone and having repeats and potentially pushing other people away. So always set your boundaries correctly, and
Yes.
don't be afraid to say, listen, this is going a little bit too far. Again, it's like an open market. People will come, people will go, and it's very important that your safe space for them is also a safe space for you.
Yes.
Yes, you are there to entertain, but also you shouldn't do it to the detriment of your mental health, to the point that you'll be uncomfortable.
Yes, and that applies. Not, I will say, to add to that, not only does it apply to viewers, it applies to even mods it's themselves. Like there comes a time where yes, either you know where things have run its course, or you can just be like, I am no longer comfortable having this person here because they've been getting this amount of notes and they're still not taking the notes. So if it comes to that moment, it comes to that moment. So boundaries is very important to have, especially when you take it from out of Twitch chat into other platforms as well. Boundaries do in fact need to exist in other platforms as well. Maybe through Discord, maybe through social media, maybe through something else. Like boundaries are meant to be there because
It's
we need to
very easy
protect
to get
ourselves as
flattered.
well. Mm-hmm.
We do. And it's very easy as a new streamer to be very flattered by people coming in and enjoying your content, or the way you sound, or the way you look, or the way
Mm-hmm.
you dress, or whatever aspect. And it's very easy to fall into the trap of over catering to people. And
Yes.
yes, some people will become your friends, some people will become your mods. But it's like there's a certain amount of attention you can provide
Mm-hmm.
everyone, and people should know, like, yes, they are a streamer, they're streaming. At the end of the day, once the stream ends, you don't, and I will say this, and this is not to sound harsh, but you don't owe anyone your time from your viewers. It's very appreciated, like, people like are there, it's great, but you don't really need to go out of your way and overexhaust yourself to please everyone off stream.
Yeah.
And it's something I've been guilty of doing when I first started, because, like, yes, you'll be very flattered, but it's not something viable. It's not something you can keep up with. And
Mm-hmm.
this is why it's nice, like, to have a Discord server, for example, where you can connect with the community off stream without, like, needing, like, to be, like, attentive of each and every individual,
Yeah.
of course. And so it's made easier in that context, but it can be very stressful, as I said, as a new streamer, to be like, oh, what am I supposed to do in this scenario?
Yes. I agree with you on that. Finally, now we are wrapping things up. You know that in the streaming world, in the content creation world, whenever we are finishing or we're done, like we did what we had to do, we did the content, we did great, we had a good time. Uh, we always go to rate out. You know, that's a thing that we do to really
Yes.
continue to keep it moving, to give the opportunity to our streamer, or just want to share the community with someone else. That's completely valid. So let me ask you, if you were to rate out to someone, and this is for me to finally wrap things up. So we're giving also a platform for someone else. If you were to rate out to someone in any way, in any time zone, whatever, who would it be and why?
Right now,
Mm-hmm.
if I were to rate out to someone I know from Twitch,
Mm-hmm.
or who I would rate in general, oh my God,
Yeah.
this is such a difficult question. Uh, you're putting me on the spotlight here. There are wrong answers. It's well, I do rate you, but I would rate you because I'm your first guest right now, so we're keeping it in the family.
We're keeping it in
Um,
the family.
no, but for real, like, there's so many people I would want to rate, and so many people that have helped me, and it's such a difficult choice sometimes. right now, who do we rate? Oh, I honestly don't know. It's always a very difficult choice.
Hmm.
Is it not for you?
Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Sometimes I just be like, oh, this person's gone. Okay, we're going there. Or other times I'm just like, oh god, the field is kind of it's kind of complicated today. So let's see who we
Because
read out to.
it's like, okay, there's so many people on. What do I want to pass on the love? Like, will I rate to help them out or to introduce? And I'm also someone that needs to like take chances with new people, and
Yeah,
I'm always kind of scared to do. So I would say like I would take my chance if I were to rate someone. I would take my chances on someone new and someone fresh, not necessarily new to streaming, but someone I don't know, and just say hi from our little corner of Twitch.
of course. I would say if I were to rate out someone today, I would rate out to Eraleas.
Oh wow.
I uh, I think you are such a calming presence on Twitch because one, your voice is very soothing. Number two, you have the personality that even though you may not have like the most loudest, most extravagant voice or the most like loudest one in the room, you still have your own personality. You still have your own way of going through each and every single stream. So that's why it's very important for people to see you, to see what it is that you do. Because not only that, but you also provide such a comforting space. And you're not, and one thing that I do like about you, which I don't think I've ever told you this, I admire the fact that you are so bold in your statements. When you say that something is wrong, you say it immediately. You're like, hey, stop doing this. Hey, this is going on. Hey, what's this? Like, I appreciate
Again,
someone who is more direct and to the point and to string along everyone, or worse yet, to not have the backbone to really be like, something is wrong. We need to act accordingly to it.
it's very scary to be like this, Drew. To say like, you know what? This is my opinion, but I'm not okay with this. And of course, like I never touch on subjects like politics or religions, of course.
Yeah.
But in other aspects, like I will say, okay, like that's my opinion. This is not a no go for me.
Hmm.
So yes, I'm not afraid to say it because like I need to exactly set my boundaries. As for like big personality, you haven't met me IRL, but like it really depends on the time of day. For the stream, like it's when you're streaming, and you need to keep into mind like what your at least the largest audience is. And right now, it's like mostly a big chunk is the Americas, like including the States, Canada, Latin America, some
Oh, thank
of
you. We're included.
Australia.
Wow, thank you. Wonderful.
I mean, the Americas, all of them,
Sure, sure.
and of course Europe. So you need to gauge what time it is for everyone, and
Yeah.
you need to adapt. So I'm like, okay, for the biggest part of my audience, it's gonna be like early in the morning. Okay, like I won't be like comfy cozy, etc. Because I've never been that person. It really depends on the game we play. But like I cannot like be like 1,000 energy and just jumping around, but it
Yeah.
also depends on so many factors like the energy that is in chat, the game that we're playing, if we play a game. Um, so yeah, I wouldn't say like chill, but like I've been like very high energy in some streams and more cozy in other streams, and it really depends on the day. It's
Yeah.
not something that I um,
It
double
comes and
check on
goes. It
before
comes and
stream.
goes.
It comes and goes. Yeah.
Well, Aurelius, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me today. I love you. I appreciate you. You're a gorgeous and incredible human, and I am lucky to have met you. I cannot wait for us to have a face-to-face interaction so you can be like, you changed since you dyed your hair.
You changed since you dyed your hair. It's true, but
Yeah,
honestly,
this is
Drew,
my
thank you so
regular hair,
much.
by the way. This is just a dye job, just to make it very clear.
Thank you so much for having me on your first episode. It's really an honor, and it kind of like so happy for one of your new beginnings to be there to support you, of course, and to many more to come. And I like applaud you for doing this and be like, okay, you know what, we're doing this, and bam, 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 you organize everything, and here we are. So it's very nice to be able to do this with you.
Thank
And
you.
thank you so much for having
Uh,
me.
where can everyone find you?
Well, in Greece, no. Like,
I mean,
yes,
yes.
but also, well, I'll definitely see me around Twitch like on my channel, like Monday to Thursday, at least for now, around 9 a.m. Eastern or 2 p.m. GMT, for about 4 hours. Hopefully in the future, like, I'll be doing some YouTube and some more varied content. I'm also kind of on Twitter. Uh, I try at least these days, but yeah, like I'm in my little purple bubble for the time being and working on things.
Yeah,
But yeah,
Eraleas in
mostly
every
Twitch.
platform, correct? Eraleas in every platform.
Eraleas or Eraleas CTV. Like it really, Instagram said no, Eraleas is taken, so you can't have it. So for now, it's Eraleas CTV.
Okay,
I mean,
you
yeah.
say that, and I have a small story before we wrap up. You know that my name is with an I, right? And the
Yes.
reason why that is a thing is because someone already took with the Y. So I was like, I like the name. What can I do? All right, let's put the I in it. Boom.
I mean, it does happen sometimes. I'm lucky, like my username is not really used anywhere else. But you know, there are those cases where the name is not available.
Ugh.
This is unexpected. So it is what it is. But yeah, you can find me on Twitch and sometimes on Twitter, of course, and on Azru's streams because I'm there being a menace usually
And on
and call him
Fortnite
out.
when we play
And on
together.
Fortnite, yeah. And on Fortnite. But thank you so much for the opportunity, Drew. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. And everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. This is a lovely, lovely chat, and there are going to be plenty more to go. It is just a short first season, but we're going to have so many guests. It's going to be so fun, and I cannot wait to see you, and hopefully you'll listen to more. Until next time, I'm Asdruboi, and thank you for tuning in to the ModRaiders Podcast. Have a lovely rest of your day. Ciao. We did it!
We did it, Drew.